a divorce.
This morning, the bad blood between actress Blake Lively and her former It Ends With Us co-star Justin Baldoni heating up, with superstar Taylor Swift now swept up in their ongoing legal battle.
Taylor Swift subpoenaed in the Justin Baldoni-Blake Lively lawsuit. The superstar's legal team issuing a blistering response, and ABC's Ike Kajachi is here with that. Good morning, Ike.
Hey, good morning, Gio. Taylor Swift's representatives are arguing that this subpoena is a publicity stunt meant to draw attention to the case by using the megastar's celebrity status.
A Blake Lively lawsuit shocker, as Justin Baldoni's team gets shot down today over their claims she tried to extort Taylor Swift.
Are you responsible for getting that Taylor song in the trailer?
I mean, you know.
Baldoni's attorney is claiming that Blake Lively wanted Taylor Swift to delete all their text messages.
Blake Lively is shutting down rumors after Justin Baldoni's lawyer claimed in a new court filing that Blake threatened Taylor Swift to publicly support her amid the It Ends With Us co-star's ongoing legal battle. Blake's lawyers addressed the allegations.
The latest dispute over a letter Baldoni's lawyer, Bryan Freedman, sent to the judge. Writing, their team spoke to a source likely to have reliable information who said Lively's lawyers made extortionate threats to Taylor Swift's law firm.
This morning, Taylor Swift's team firing back after an attempt to subpoena the superstar as a witness in the legal battle between It Ends With Us co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni.
Justin's attorney told a judge under oath he also had evidence Blake's lawyer allegedly contacted Taylor's legal team requesting the singer make a social media statement in support of Ms. Lively given her absence from the Super Bowl.
Telling E! News in a statement on May 14th, this is categorically false, adding they, quote, deny all of these so-called allegations, which are cowardly sourced to supposed anonymous sources and completely untethered from reality.
Demanding the singer, her longtime close friend, release a statement of support for Lively. Friedman writing that he believes this was addressed in at least one written communication, adding it could evidence an attempt to intimidate and coerce a potential witness. But attorneys for Lively deny the claims, and on Thursday, a judge ruled in the actress's favor.
A spokesperson calling the subpoena issued by Baldoni's attorney Bryan Freedman tabloid clickbait, and saying Swift never stepped foot on the set of this movie. She was not involved in any casting or creative decisions. She did not score the film, and she never saw an edit or made any notes on the film.
Intimating that 10 years of private text messages could be released, which is an allegation of extortion.
Team Blake responded, this is categorically false and untethered from reality.
In a May 14th court filing obtained by E! News, Justin's lawyer, Bryan Freedman, accused Blake's legal team of demanding that Taylor, quote, release a statement of support for Miss Lively and, quote, intimating if Miss Swift refused to do so, private text messages of a personal nature in Miss Lively's possession would be released.
What happens when Hollywood's golden girl goes from baking pies to allegedly blackmailing her best friend? Because according to a court filing that just exploded across every gossip site and legal blog, Blake Lively threatened to leak a decade of private messages from Taylor Swift unless she posted a public show of support. That's right, leak the texts. Or speak up. And when Taylor didn't, the courtroom got a front row seat to one of the most chaotic meltdowns of 2025. This isn't a fan theory. This isn't Reddit speculation. This claim came in a legal letter signed by attorney Bryan Freedman, who's representing Justin Baldoni in his $400 million defamation countersuit against Blake Lively. And the letter didn't just hint at drama, it straight up alleged that Blake's lawyer contacted Taylor Swift's legal team, demanding she make a supportive post. Or else what? The release of private conversations, audio receipts, and texts Blake reportedly begged Taylor to delete. And when that evidence got leaked in court, Blake Lively allegedly broke down in tears, stormed out of the courthouse, and sent Hollywood's PR machine into full damage control. But here's the real twist.
Justin Baldoni's legal team, in a recent letter to the judge, accusing Lively and her legal team of witness tampering and attempting to destroy evidence. And at the heart of this latest fight, one of the most famous people in the world, Lively's friend, Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift didn't say a single word. No tweets, no press statement, not even a passive-aggressive repost. Just brutal, calculated silence. And that silence, it spoke louder than any PR denial ever could. Over the next few minutes, we're diving deep into what's being called Textgate 2025. The alleged blackmail attempt, the leaked messages, the courtroom chaos, and the brutal way Taylor Swift just let her former bestie crash and burn without lifting a finger. This is the kind of story that doesn't just end friendships, it could end careers. And it all starts with one phone call and a line that's now haunting Blake's legacy: either you stand with me or I show them everything. It all started with a phone call, one threat, and one signed letter that would take Blake Lively from red carpet royalty to courtroom controversy. On May 14, 2025, Justin Baldoni's powerhouse attorney Bryan Freedman dropped what the internet quickly labeled a nuclear legal filing.
This morning, Blake Lively's friendship with superstar Taylor Swift now squarely in the middle of her ongoing legal drama with her It Ends With Us co-star Justin Baldoni.
Inside the document, a claim so bold, so scandalous, that it instantly set Hollywood on fire. Freedman accused Blake Lively's legal team, specifically her attorney Mike Gottlieb, of threatening Taylor Swift behind closed doors. And the allegation wasn't vague. According to the affidavit, Gottlieb allegedly called Taylor Swift's legal representative and delivered an ultimatum. Either Taylor publicly supports Blake Lively in her legal battle against Baldoni, or Blake would leak 10 years' worth of private text messages. Not just rumors, not just a PR stunt. This was framed as straight-up coercion, a digital hostage situation, but that wasn't even the worst part. The filing also claimed that back in October 2020, Blake had already asked Taylor to delete their entire text history, 4 years before the lawsuit even hit headlines. Think about that. If true, that's not damage control. That's premeditation. According to the filing, Blake knew this legal storm was coming and tried to erase the evidence before the first lightning strike ever hit.
I thought we were friends.
We are friends.
Baldoni's legal team citing a source in their most recent filing claiming Lively's attorney demanded that Ms. Swift release a statement of support for Ms. Lively. If Ms. Swift refused to do so, private text messages of a personal nature in Ms. Lively's possession would be released.
Let that sink in. Blake Lively, long considered the poster child for elegance, was allegedly playing PR chess years before anyone else was even on the board. But what really made jaws drop? A now viral quote from one of the leaked messages. Either you stand with me, or I show them everything. That's not just emotional pressure, that's a threat. Plain and simple. Freedman's letter framed the entire situation as a textbook case of witness tampering and coercion. And he didn't just suggest it, he staked his entire legal reputation on it. The filing was signed under penalty of perjury, meaning if even one piece of this was proven false, Freedman could face serious professional consequences. Disbarment, fines, even criminal charges. So why would a top Hollywood attorney risk it all? Because, according to him, the source of the info wasn't anonymous blog gossip. It was someone from inside Taylor Swift's inner circle. The next day, just as media headlines started spiraling and the internet declared Blake guilty in the court of public opinion, Judge Louis J. Lyman stepped in and slammed the brakes. On May 15, 2025,
the filing comes just days after Baldoni's team issued Swift a subpoena in the case. Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds responding, trying to block the move. But Baldoni's lawyers arguing they believe a subpoena is necessary, alleging Lively requested that Taylor Swift delete their text messages.
With a courtroom packed tighter than a Met Gala red carpet, Judge Lyman issued a stinging rebuke of Freedman's explosive filing. He didn't just dismiss the claim, he labeled the letter as improper, irrelevant, and potentially sanctionable. That's legal speak for, this isn't courtroom evidence, this is tabloid bait. Now let's break this down, because on paper, this sounds like a win for Blake. The judge tossed the accusation. That means it's dead, right? Not even close. Here's the thing, the damage was already done. That filing had already made its way across Twitter threads, gossip blogs, and primetime cable segments. Millions had already read the claim that Blake tried to blackmail Taylor. Screenshots were posted, YouTube reaction videos went viral, comment sections turned into courtrooms of their own. And while Judge Lyman warned that future stunts like this could lead to sanctions for Justin Baldoni's team, the internet didn't care. Because in the public eye, Blake wasn't just a celebrity in a lawsuit, she was now the alleged villain in a real-life soap opera. Plus, there's a legal twist most people missed. Striking a motion from the record doesn't mean it's not true. It just means it wasn't submitted properly or isn't relevant to the case in front of the judge. That's a technicality, not an acquittal, and Lyman knew it. His tone, sharp, frustrated, almost like he was tired of the media frenzy this case had created. He didn't say the allegations were false. He just said the courtroom wasn't the place to drop nuclear PR bombs. "This is not a press release, Mill," he reportedly told both parties, and warned, "Abuse the docket like this again, and consequences will follow." But by then, the genie was out of the bottle. So what exactly was in this affidavit that caused all this chaos? Because while Judge Lyman may have tossed the filing, the contents of that letter and the sworn affidavit attached to it paint a picture that's messy, personal, and possibly criminal. Let's get into it. According to attorney Bryan Freedman, the information came directly from a source close to Taylor Swift, someone who claimed to have firsthand knowledge of what went down. This person allegedly told Freedman that Blake's attorney, Mike Gottlieb, had a 1-hour phone call with Taylor's legal team on February 14th, 2025. Yes.
And that a representative of Ms. Swift addressed these inappropriate and apparently extortionate threats in at least one written communication. Lively's team firing back, telling ABC News this is categorically false, filing a response overnight denying the allegations and asking the court to strike the new documents as unnecessary, improper, and abusive.
Valentine's Day. The day meant for love turned into the day of threats. During that call, Blake's lawyer reportedly made it clear, unless Taylor publicly supported Blake in her ongoing legal war with Justin Baldoni, she'd face the release of private messages, texts, voice notes, and potentially damning receipts from over a decade of friendship. And just to be clear, that's not just tabloid drama. If true, that's coercion, maybe even extortion. But wait, it gets deeper. The affidavit also claims that Blake Lively had already asked Taylor to delete their private conversations back in October 2020. Let that sink in. That's 4 years before the current lawsuit, meaning Blake may have anticipated legal exposure long before this became public. That kind of forward planning, it doesn't scream innocence. It screams cover-up. But the most jaw-dropping detail came in the form of a voice memo allegedly shared during the call. A quote attributed to Taylor reportedly said, "She said she'd bury me with my own words." That isn't metaphor. That's a war declaration. The affidavit even suggested that Blake planned to weaponize old conversations to force Taylor into acting as her character witness in the public eye. Essentially, defend me or I release what you've said to me in private. And remember, Freedman signed this affidavit under penalty of perjury. That means if he's lying, he could lose his license, face fines, or worse. No top-tier attorney risks all that unless they're confident in their source. So the big question isn't just did it happen? The question now is, what else hasn't been leaked yet? Because this was just the beginning. As the leaked affidavit spread like wildfire and media headlines ran wild with words like blackmail, extortion, and career ending, all eyes turned to Blake Lively. And she didn't wait long to strike back. Blake's legal team, led by attorney Mike Gottlieb,
Swift's team has slammed the subpoena as tabloid clickbait, saying her only connection to the movie was allowing the use of her song, My Tears Ricochet.
Issued a fiery public statement calling the claims categorically false, outrageous, and a desperate attempt by Baldoni's camp to drag Taylor Swift into a lawsuit that had nothing to do with her. Their tone, offended, insulted, outraged. But there was a problem. They never denied the details. Not the date of the call, not the allegation that a deletion request was made back in 2020, not even the supposed threat itself. They just emotionally rejected the entire thing. It was all bark, no receipts, and inside the courtroom, that's where things got even messier. Multiple sources, including Page 6 and Court Insiders, reported that Blake Lively had a full-on breakdown after the evidence was introduced. We're talking tears, smudged mascara, visible shaking. At one point, she allegedly whispered to her lawyer, she wasn't supposed to do this. Courtroom witnesses described it as a meltdown straight out of a movie. Blake was visibly distressed, reportedly scolding her legal team, blaming them for underestimating Taylor Swift's PR power and legal strategy. One source claimed she muttered the words, "She's going to destroy me." And honestly, that didn't sound like paranoia. That sounded like realization, because while Blake was unraveling in front of the judge, Taylor Swift didn't even flinch. She wasn't physically there. She was dialed in through a secure video feed. But according to people present, her PR chief Tree Payne remained stone-faced. When asked for a response to the chaos unfolding, she reportedly replied, This is what accountability looks like. Oof.
The move, just the latest attempt by Baldoni's attorneys to insert Swift into the co-star's legal feud. While Swift is fighting to shake it off, it's still unclear whether a judge will enforce a subpoena.
No yelling, no retaliation, just a mic drop from the Swift camp that echoed louder than any courtroom outburst ever could. And outside the courthouse, Blake was spotted hours later in New York City, dining with Salma Hayek and her sister Robin, dressed to kill, smiling for the paparazzi. But that smile, it wasn't triumph, it wasn't confidence, it was pure panic. In the middle of the storm, amid affidavits, breakdowns, and media madness, Taylor Swift stayed completely silent. Not a tweet, not a statement, not even a cryptic lyric quote on Instagram. And that silence, it was louder than any denial Blake Lively could ever craft. For someone as PR savvy as Taylor, silence is never accidental. This is the woman who crushed AI deepfakes overnight, vaporized fake engagement rumors with a single post from Tree Payne, and shut down entire TikTok rumor cycles without lifting a finger. So when she chooses not to respond, it's a move, a message, a calculated strike. According to a People magazine exclusive, insiders say Taylor has paused her friendship with Blake. One source even said she's completely distancing herself from the drama and wants no involvement in the legal circus. That's as close to a cold cutoff as you'll ever get in Hollywood. Translation: Taylor changed her number and left Blake on red, permanently, and the public noticed. Social media lit up with Swifties praising Taylor's restraint, calling her silence nuclear, ice cold, and strategic vengeance. Because while Blake was making noise, Taylor was making moves, quietly, powerfully. But this isn't the first time Taylor has used silence as her sharpest weapon. When Scooter Braun tried to play games with her masters, she didn't rant. She re-recorded her entire discography and turned the narrative into a billion-dollar win. When tabloids dragged her during the Kim-Kanye feud,
Clearly, the Baldoni camp thinks that there's some benefit to seeing the Taylor Swift involvement. They think that by seeing these alleged texts, that there's something in there that's going to benefit Justin Baldoni's case.
A spokesperson for the pop star previously saying Swift had no connection to the film aside from licensing one song, and that attempting to subpoena her is an attempt to draw public interest by creating tabloid clickbait.
She disappeared, rebranded, and came back with reputation. And now, she's doing it again. Sources claim she's not just ignoring Blake, she's letting Blake's panic speak for itself, letting her ex-friend's meltdown become the message. No denials, no clarifications, just letting the affidavit hang in the air like smoke from a scorched empire. And Tree Payne? Radio silent too. The PR chief who can end a scandal with one tweet hasn't said a single word. And that's terrifying. For Blake. Because if this story were false, Tree would have stomped it out the second it hit headlines. But she didn't. She let it live. Which begs the question, why let it live? Unless it's true. As Taylor Swift stayed silent and Blake Lively spiraled, the media did what the media does best. It pounced. At first, it was the usual suspects. Gossip blogs, YouTubers, and Reddit sleuths dissecting the leaked affidavit like it was a crime scene. But then, something shifted. Mainstream outlets, Variety, Deadline, Page 6, E! News, began turning on Blake too. And not just reporting the story, but dissecting her downfall. Headlines that once read, Blake's stunning Met Gala look were now replaced with phrases like witness tampering allegations and reputation on the line. Even People magazine, long considered a safe PR zone for Blake, ran a story stating that her friendship with Taylor Swift had halted, a careful, polished way of saying she'd been iced out. That subtle shift, it was huge. Because when your go-to outlet for puff pieces suddenly stops defending you, you're done in the court of celebrity image. Meanwhile, Hollywood insiders began whispering something scarier than bad press. They started talking about jail time. Because if even part of the affidavit is proven true, if Blake really pressured a potential witness, deleted evidence, or made threats, that's not just PR crisis territory, that's criminal territory. And that's when the Streisand effect kicked in. By trying to pressure Taylor into silence, or worse, support, Blake had accidentally made the entire scandal go viral 10 times faster. The very act of denying it made the story explode. The courtroom might have struck the letter down, but the public didn't care. The narrative had already taken shape. America's quirky sweetheart wasn't the victim. She was the manipulator, and things only got worse. According to insiders, Blake became obsessed with damage control. She reportedly hired a reputation manager tied to an ex-CIA fixer, someone who specializes in scrubbing negative search results from the internet.
Baldoni's public legal battle began late last year when Lively filed a lawsuit accusing Baldoni and his production company of sexual harassment on the set of It Ends With Us and of orchestrating a social media smear campaign against her. That Baldoni firing back, suing Lively for defamation. With both sides denying the claims and with the trial still nearly a year away, the off-screen drama not ending anytime soon.
But the internet didn't budge. Google still served up subpoenas, leaked affidavits, and headlines like, Blake Lively's PR machine implodes after Swift silence. Even her so-called power allies stayed suspiciously quiet. Selena Gomez? Silent. Sabrina Carpenter? Nothing. Emma Stone? Vanished. Taylor's entire circle had ghosted Blake like she was radioactive. And when everyone in Hollywood suddenly stops defending you, that's not coincidence, that's exile. By now, Blake Lively's reputation wasn't just bruised, it was bleeding out in real time. But here's the kicker, this wasn't even the main event. Because behind all the leaked messages, public meltdowns, and PR disasters is a legal war that's still actively unfolding. And the stakes are bigger than ever. At the center of it all, a film that was supposed to be Blake's next big moment. It Ends With Us. Let's rewind for a second. In late 2024, Blake filed a lawsuit against her co-star and the film's director, Justin Baldoni, accusing him of harassment and creating a hostile environment on set. The lawsuit immediately made headlines, and at first, some of Hollywood's elite quietly backed her. But then, Baldoni fired back with a $400 million defamation and extortion countersuit that flipped the script entirely. His team claims Blake fabricated parts of her story, pressured others to stay silent, and worst of all, tried to coerce Taylor Swift into backing her narrative publicly. And this isn't just celebrity gossip. Court documents confirm that Taylor has now been dragged into the case through subpoenas, with legal teams circling her like vultures. And while Taylor's camp has made it clear she wants no part of it, her name is now in the paperwork. Her messages, potential evidence, her silence, a wild card that both sides are trying to exploit. What's worse, the case has now moved beyond New York. After jurisdiction issues, it's headed to federal court in Washington, D.C. Bigger court, bigger media presence, bigger consequences. And federal court? They don't play games with celebrity theatrics. If those text messages between Blake and Taylor are deemed admissible, and they contain what the affidavit suggests, they won't just blow up Blake's case, they could cost her her freedom. Because in legal terms, if you're caught trying to manipulate a witness, destroy evidence, or use emotional pressure to sway a narrative, that's not PR damage, that's obstruction. And obstruction charges? That's the kind of thing that follows you long after the headlines fade. Blake Lively once called Taylor Swift her dragon. Fierce, protective, untouchable. But now, that dragon's silence has scorched her entire PR kingdom. With Taylor walking away, the media turning, and A-listers vanishing, Blake's empire is collapsing under the weight of her own missteps. This wasn't just a friendship break. It's a career implosion playing out in real time. And the worst part? This might only be the beginning. Because if this is how Blake unraveled after just one leaked filing, imagine what'll happen when the full case hits trial. Textgate isn't over. It's just getting started. Hit subscribe. You'll want front row seats.